The world woke on Sunday to a Middle East that feels much more dangerous. Overnight, the United States launched major airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. Powerful bunker-buster bombs hit key sites at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. The American government said this action, called Operation Midnight Hammer, was a success. They believe it has seriously damaged Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon. But this attack has also opened a new, very uncertain chapter in the long and difficult story of the region. The immediate aftermath has been filled with anger, threats of revenge, and deep worry about what could happen next. The international community is now watching, holding its breath to see if this leads to a much bigger war. In London, the response from the British government was swift and clear. I immediately spoke about the grave dangers of the situation getting worse. I warned that the conflict could easily spread not just within the Middle East, but also to areas beyond the region. My main message was not one of support for the military action, but a call for calm and a return to talking. I confirmed that the United Kingdom was not involved in the American strikes. However, I also said that the US did inform the UK before the attack happened. This shows the close relationship between the two allies, but also the different path the UK now wants to take. After the news broke, I called an emergency meeting of the government's crisis committee, known as COBRA. This meeting brought together top security and government officials to discuss how the UK should respond. My focus is on de-escalation, which means taking steps to lower the tension and prevent more fighting. I've been on the phone with other world leaders trying to build a united front to pull the region back from the edge of a full-scale conflict. The situation is extremely delicate, and every action and statement is being watched very carefully by all sides involved in this growing crisis. The American strikes came after months of failed talks and increasing tensions. Iran has been getting closer to having enough material for a nuclear bomb, which worries many countries, including Britain. Just hours after the US attack, Iran retaliated by firing missiles at Israel, showing how quickly the violence can spread. This cycle of attack and counterattack is exactly what I'm worried about. I understand that one act of violence can lead to another, bigger one, creating a spiral that becomes very hard to stop. For the UK, the priority now is to find a way to break this dangerous cycle before it is too late. The UK government has made it very clear that its first duty is to protect British citizens and its interests in the Middle East. With the situation now so unpredictable, steps have been taken to ensure their safety. The government has issued strong travel warnings, advising all British people not to travel to Iran, Israel, or the occupied Palestinian territories. This is a serious warning that shows how dangerous the government believes the region has become. For those already there, the advice is to be extremely careful and follow the guidance of local authorities. The safety of its people is the most important concern for the UK at this difficult time. Airlines have also reacted quickly to the increased risk. British Airways, the UK's national airline, has temporarily stopped its flights to some key cities in the region, including Dubai and Doha. This decision affects many travellers and shows that the commercial world is also taking the threat of a wider conflict very seriously. Passengers who had flights booked have been told they can change their travel plans without a fee. These changes to flights and travel advice are a clear sign that normal life and business in the region have been disrupted by the military escalation. They highlight the real-world impact of these events on ordinary people and companies. On the military side, the United Kingdom is taking no chances. British military forces that are already in the Middle East have been put on the highest level of alert. This means they are ready to respond to any threat to British people or assets such as embassies or ships. While the UK was not part of the American attack, it is preparing for any potential fallout. The government has moved military resources like ships and aircraft to the area to act as a safeguard. This is not about joining the fight, but about being prepared to defend UK interests if the conflict spreads further and becomes even more chaotic. I've stressed that the UK's military posture is purely for defensive purposes. The goal is not to get involved in a war with Iran, but to make sure the UK can protect its people and its allies in the region if needed. My government is trying to walk a very fine line. It is sending a message that it is prepared for the worst, while at the same time working hard through diplomatic channels to prevent the worst from happening. This dual approach of military readiness and a strong push for peace is at the heart of the UK's current strategy for navigating this crisis. While I am calling for peace and de-escalation, my government is also very firm on one critical point. Iran must not be allowed to get a nuclear weapon. I've repeated this position clearly since the American strikes. I have said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is a long-standing policy for the United Kingdom, shared by its allies. The fear is that a nuclear-armed Iran would completely change the balance of power in the Middle East. It could lead to other countries in the region trying to get their own nuclear weapons, creating a terrifying and unstable arms race that would make the world much less safe. Other senior UK officials have echoed this strong message. The Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, stated that Iran is a threat to this country. This is not just about regional stability, it is also about the direct safety of the United Kingdom. Security services in the UK have warned about plots linked to Iran's on British soil. The head of MI5 recently said that his agency had stopped more than 20 threats from Iran since 2022. These threats were described as potentially lethal, which means they could have caused deaths in the UK. This is why the British government believes that stopping Iran's nuclear ambitions is essential for its own national security. The international nuclear watchdog, the IEA, recently reported that Iran had enough highly enriched uranium to build several nuclear bombs. This news made the international community very nervous and was a key reason for the rising tensions before the US attack. A nuclear Iran would not only be a threat to its neighbors like Israel and Saudi Arabia, but it could also support terrorist groups with even more dangerous capabilities. A responsible UK government, as Mr. Reynolds said, would never allow this to happen. The potential consequences are seen as too great to ignore, making it a top priority for UK foreign policy. Therefore, the UK's call for diplomacy is linked to this fundamental goal. The British government believes that the best way to stop Iran from getting a bomb is through a strong, verifiable agreement, not through war. The recent US strikes have made achieving that agreement much harder, but the UK has not given up on it. The push for talks is an attempt to find a peaceful solution that also guarantees Iran's nuclear program cannot be used to make weapons. This is the difficult challenge that UK diplomats are now facing in the wake of the attacks. In this moment of high crisis, the United Kingdom is putting all its energy into diplomacy. The government believes that talking is the only real way out of this dangerous situation. The Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has been very active in trying to find a peaceful path forward. Just last week, before the American strikes, he was in Washington, D.C. meeting with US officials. He was also part of a European group that met with Iranian officials on Friday, trying to keep the lines of communication open. This shows that the UK was already working hard to find a diplomatic solution before the military action took place. Mr. Lammy said that he believed a window now exists within the next 2 weeks to achieve a diplomatic solution. This statement, made just before the strikes, shows how fragile the situation was. Now, after the attacks, that window may be closing fast, but the UK has not given up hope. The goal is to get everyone back to the negotiating table. This means talking to the Americans, the Iranians, and other major world powers like France, Germany, China, and Russia. The UK is using its position as a major diplomatic player to try and bring people together to talk rather than fight. The international reaction to the US strikes has been mixed, which makes the UK's job harder. Iran has called the attack an outrageous violation of international law and has promised to respond. Russia and China have also condemned the American action. However, other allies like France and Germany are, like the UK, calling for de-escalation. The United Nations Secretary-General has also called the strikes a dangerous escalation. The UK is trying to work with these countries that want peace to create a strong international voice that calls for restraint from all sides. Ultimately, the UK's message is simple. War in the Middle East would be a catastrophe for everyone. It would cause immense suffering, destroy economies, and create instability that would be felt all over the world. My government is trying to prevent this from happening by keeping military forces on alert for defense, advising citizens to be safe, and pushing relentlessly for a return to negotiations. The UK is trying to navigate a path away from the abyss. The coming days will be critical in determining whether the path of diplomacy can win over the drums of war.